Hello and welcome to Just Flying Video Time again. This is Tui Farm, mostly fantasy airfield. Trying to remember, but I think there is an airstrip over the hill to our right, but it was on a really bad slope, so I couldn't put it in the correct place. So I made this airport instead, which is a fantasy one, as you may realise by the fact that the runway crosses the road, amongst other things. Coming, so we're okay. And oh crap, nearly in the fence. So it's a bit of fun, me playing around and making something interesting on a bit of ground that was flat enough to let me do that. It's fairly close to where there is an actual airstrip, the one that I couldn't do, so yeah, this has become our Tui Farming Explain. Yeah, maybe not to everybody's taste, but I quite like things like this. Especially if there's no traffic coming as we're accelerating over the road. Fingers crossed. I think we'll be okay. Past the cow shed on the left. Custom made cow milking shed. I'm quite proud of that one. That came out quite well, I thought. Right then, so today we're going to, or actually no, I'll tell you when we've landed, and but after we've landed, in case some people don't know New Zealand that well, but for those who do know New Zealand, see how long it takes you to work it out. Competition time with yourself. It's down there somewhere. It was on that hill. That was the actual location of a grass strip runway. It's fairly close to where the Fantasy Tui Farm one is now. So, it's Thursday then, or at least it is for me doing this video. The day of the week which I have heard called Throwback Thursday. And just in case that isn't anything you've heard of, it's about looking back at songs from years ago that you used to like back then and still think they're kind of cool. And I got reminded of that when I saw an advert on television today where the music was Ça Plane Pour Moi by Plastic Bertrand. Yeah, if you have no idea, I'll drop a link in the description, and it's damn good. Well, I think it is anyway. The other throwback thing that was on my mind, I watched a video on YouTube again, which I have seen probably 3 or 4 times now, and I know I will watch it again in the future. There is a space science channel called Cool Worlds, where a lot of the videos are related to astrophysics and that kind of thing, which is something I like, so it's good for me. But once in a while they do something which is, well, it's still science related, but it's kind of like a step sideways into storytelling. Exploring hypothetical situations and creating a story narrative around those. And I find those things really fun and interesting. Especially as Mr. Cool Worlds himself is a guy called David Kipping, who has probably the most soothing and relaxing voice I've ever heard. As I say, there's a few of these story type videos on the channel, but my favourite one, and the one I've just watched again, it's called Journey to the End of the Universe, and I'll put a link below to that as well. And even if space and science is not really your kind of thing, you may enjoy this anyway. Up to you, but comes recommended from me anyway. Well, talking about space and all that, fancy a fun fact? Now, I would assume the vast majority of us have a smartphone, a tablet or something like that which is powered by a lithium-ion battery. Now, with the current state of the universe, you may well have heard correctly that as stars begin to die, they create heavier and heavier elements, and that's where we get the variety of elements from that we see today. However, with stars, black holes and everything around at the moment, there isn't a mechanism now to create lithium. And that means that the lithium we do have was actually created during the Big Bang at some point. And so, with that lithium in your phone battery, congratulations, you own something that is nearly 14 billion years old. Which is kind of cool, I think. Yeah, and talking of really old things, keeping half an eye on the American election. I think it's August before they have to finalise the candidates, so it may change before then, but currently on one side we have 81-year-old Joe Biden. Now, with American politics, it stopped being politics quite a few years ago, and it's a cult of personalities, so there is biased media on both sides. But fortunately I'm not American, so I get to see some of the more middle ground kind of reporting on the whole thing. I mean, it quite simply is a fact that bias happens in every country. People push their own agendas. So if you want a more balanced viewpoint of what's really happening in your own country, watch the news about it produced by foreign countries. Yeah, news channels and media from abroad. So anyway, a bit of a tangent but kind of related, because removing the bias ranting from either end of the spectrum, what we're left with is people who know what they're talking about. They're saying Joe Biden isn't actually showing any signs or symptoms that they would expect from someone who has dementia or that kind of thing. But what he is suffering with, quite badly, is getting older. Old age, where a person's body, the brain, speed of recall, it all slows down. And that's consistent to what they're seeing with him. And it is interesting, if you look at him campaigning for the last election, there is a very noticeable difference in his demeanour and his sharpness, and assuming that same rate of decline continues for the 4 years of his presidency if he wins. Yeah, the end of his term in office, that final year, it's not going to be a good look for someone like that to be in charge of what is still, for now at least, one of the major players on the world stage. Then on the other side we have Donald Trump, who's a bit younger, a sprightly 78 years old I believe. But doctors are reporting that he actually is showing signs of early dementia. Phonemic paraphasia, I think is the term. Swapping parts of words for others that sound similar. Even though it's sort of intermittent occurrences, he's doing it regularly enough. There's other symptoms as well, I'll let you look them up if you want to, but yeah, basically the opinion is that Trump is showing signs consistent with dementia. Yeah, so what we've got, or what America has got, is one candidate who is realistically a bit too old now, and his old age symptoms are getting worse, and the other candidate whose dementia is getting worse. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of rational Americans who are just totally embarrassed about this election, But I know there's nothing you can do, and so I'm certainly not blaming those people. From the Trump side, at any rate, that's turned into a cult where they're never going to replace their orange god. But maybe this is something for world politics, really, that needs to be taken out of their hands. Maybe a political career should be capped at 65, maybe 70 at a push. My personal opinion would be even younger, say around 60 years of age. But I can see there would be a valid argument for 65, 70, but beyond that, no, time to go. Now, I'm sure there are cases where 80-year-olds, maybe even 90-year-olds are still fully capable, but that's probably not going to be the majority of them, is it? And certainly not the case with these two in the American elections. So, upper age limit. I do think that would be a good idea, although I'm sure it will have to go on the list of things which are never actually going to happen in real life, even though they probably should. Much like not allowing criminals who meet the criteria for sociopathic behaviour to run for US President, but apparently that is within the rules. So, nearly there. Have you guessed where we're going yet? I saw a thing again recently in something I was looking at where an interviewer asks a candidate for a job, describe yourself in 3 words. And if that ever happened to me, somebody says, Daz, describe yourself in 3 words, my answer would be efficient. Sadly, I've never been in the position to be asked that, so I've never got to use my answer, but if anybody wants to steal it, feel free. Not totally sure if it's a clever answer or one which makes you look a bit of an asshole, but I would still use it if I ever got the chance. I crossed that line quite a while ago where if somebody thinks I'm an asshole now, I'll take that as a compliment. I'm very happy with that. Nicely lined up. AI traffic update is there doesn't seem to be anything moving on the ground. One behind me, but he's a long way behind me, so it's not going to get in our way. Clear to land. Weather not great for cloud, but nothing to worry about with visibility or wind either. Cloudy and not really holding up to its reputation of New Zealand's sunniest city, apparently. Although if you've not got it by now, that clue as to where we're landing probably isn't going to help too much. And that's one of those things which has just launched 100 different other questions in my head. The sunniest city, that was something I found out about years ago, and I think it's correct. But if there is a sunniest city, is there a rainiest city? Snowiest city? City where by percentage the population most misplaces their car keys and spends in excess of 10 minutes looking for them. I did that many years ago actually, where I came home in the evening, not been drinking at all, next morning no idea where my car keys are. Fortunately I had a spare set, so used those and off I went. But when I got home again, I finally did find my keys in the fridge. Not a clue, absolutely no idea how or why they ended up in the fridge, but nobody else here, so it must have been me somehow. Anyway, wish me luck on our arrival into NZNS Nelson, which I'm sure you worked out a while ago if you're flying New Zealand occasionally. Yeah, let's see how our landing goes. There doing okay. Yeah, didn't feel too bad. Happy enough there. Let's try and get slowed down and turn off at this intersection if we can. That's good. Go for the replay and have another look. Yeah, that was okay. No complaints there. That'll do. Wow. I'm going to have a park over by the new terminal building. If you do have a copy of Nelson and your terminal doesn't look like that thing over there, it should do, and you can get a copy of that version, or this version, I mean, yeah, from the mega folder. Pain in the backside building that actually, with all the various angles and everything on it. But got there in the end, so that's good. Not exactly going to be parked on the taxi line, are we? But yeah, close enough. Yeah, it'll do. Yeah, so there we go then, a little mystery tour into Nelson. So, yeah, I'm off to go and do something secret now. So, yeah, I'll see you again soon. Bye.